Alright, this is your quiz corrections for quiz number 15. This was on May 8th, 2017. It was 37 points. This was on addition and subtraction. And this one was on multiplication. Question number 1 says simplify. So anytime it has the word simplify, I have to think about which of these math operations. Inside the parentheses, I have addition. Then I can just line up the like terms. I have a 19s and a negative 8s. 19 minus 8 gives you 11s. This one doesn't have an 11s. This one doesn't either. That one doesn't either. Therefore, A is your correct answer. You also recognize that the t's, 11, t, and a 14t, you line them up, and you'll get 25t is your answer. Question number 2 says simplify. In between the parentheses is a minus sign. If it has a minus sign, I'm going to have to distribute the negative 1. So negative 1 times a positive 20n to the 4th will give me a negative 20n to the 4th. Negative 1 times a positive 7n to the 5th will turn it to a negative 7n to the 5th. And negative 1 times a negative 5 will make that a positive 5. Well, I'm looking here to anything to the 5th power. I have 2 underlines there. So 4 and a negative 7 gives me a negative 3n to the 5th. Then I have the powers of 4. So positive 12 and a negative 20 gives me negative 8. And then I'm just looking for the constants. So I have, if you get lost, you can always just put check marks above them. The constants, negative 2 and a positive 5 would be a positive 3. That would be choice D. Question number 3 says simplify. Now between these parentheses there is no addition, there is no subtraction, there is nothing, therefore it's multiplication. Well, what do you do when you multiply? You can do 2 things here. You could, some of you guys know FOIL. Remember, FOIL only works when you have a binomial times a binomial. Or for the rest of the class, I've been teaching you guys to use this box. The reason why I teach you guys the box is because it is similar for factoring. So this is a binomial, 2 expressions, so r minus 7 and r plus 2. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply first, and then I'm going to add. R times r is r squared. R times negative 7 is negative 7r. 2 times r is 2r. And 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And then I'm going to add or combine like terms here. So I'm going to have r squared, that becomes a negative 5r, and negative 14. That is choice A. Question number 4 says b plus 7 to the power of 2. Okay, most students who struggle are probably going to do something like this. They'll apply the law of exponents incorrectly. It's called the power of exponents. They'll try to take this 2 and distribute that. The reason why it's incorrect is because the law of exponents says that has to be multiplication, not addition. So, number 1, that doesn't work. The other way that works, it tells you that it has a power of 2, which means you have 2 of these expressions, right? 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4. So, b plus 7 squared is b plus 7 times b plus 7. The student who does this wrong, they're going to multiply just the first term and the last terms. They'll probably get b squared plus 49. That's probably the misunderstanding of that problem. They chose b. To do that problem correctly, you have a binomial times a binomial. So a binomial is 2 times 2, which means there are a total of 4 boxes, just like the problem above. b plus 7 gives you b squared, 7b, 49. Combine like terms right there, and you'll get b squared plus, remember you're multiplying first, then you're adding, that's 14b plus 49. Their choice C. Question number 5 looks a little tricky. This one says 2x plus 8 parentheses 7x plus 7. Well, if I look at the parentheses, remember when you're simplifying, you always use PEMDAS. And inside the parentheses, I can't add those, right? So we're done with that. There's no exponents. Now I'm going to do multiplication. So in here, I'm looking for multiplication, And the only multiplication I see is where there's no addition, which is between the 8 and the parentheses, which means you have to distribute that 8. 8 times 7x is 56x. 8 times 7 is 56. That 2x just comes down, and then you can just combine like terms. 2x and a 56x gives you 58x plus 56, which would be choice B. So for that problem, use PEMDAS, distribute first, then combine like terms. Question number 6, which of the following represents a polynomial in standard form? We talked about how standard form is essentially the same thing as getting something in descending order. Descending order is by the exponents. So if you look there, this is x to the second, that's x to the 0, x to the first, so that one's not descending, nor is that one, nor is this one. This is the only one that's in standard form or descending order, x to the second, x to the first, and x to the 0. So 2, 1, 0, descending order. Question number 7 says, name this polynomial based on its number of terms. So if I look up here, this one has 3 terms. 1, 2, 3 terms. This would be a trinomial. This one, they just give you y squared. That's just one term. One term means that is a monomial. So binomial is 2, trinomial is 3, polynomial is more than 3. So greater than 3. That one is 1. Okay? And question number 8 says simplify. Again, you have multiplication here, so you're going to have to just multiply. You have a monomial times a binomial, 1 times 2, so you can use this box right here. I did it over here correctly, probably. So you're going to do the same thing, multiply first, and if there's anything like terms, go ahead and add. So negative 7x times 11x, that gives you negative 77x squared. Negative 7x times 12 gives you negative 84x. So these two right here, your answer choice is A. 8 is A. So there are 8 multiple choice questions times 2 points apiece. You got 16 points. If you can write your name first and last name nicely, that's 2 plus circling the period. So that front side was 19 points. Backside. Question number 9 says, that's bad directions. It should probably say simplify there. If I look at this expression here, I have no math operation in between them. So that one is multiplication. Anytime you're doing multiplication, I think it's easiest to think of the box. I have a binomial times a trinomial. 2 terms times 3 terms. 2 terms times 3 terms. So we're going to multiply first. If you don't have that in your maps, write it now. And then we'll combine like terms. So anytime you are multiplying polynomials, do it in this order. It's essentially PEMDAS. 9 times 6 is 54. Y times y squared is y to the third. Remember, when you have the same base, you add the exponents. Remember, you can also write it like this. It's kind of painful. 9 times 6 times y squared. And then you'll see that's 54, and you have 3 y's. 9y times negative 9, or 9y times negative y gives you negative 9, right? Positive times a negative. And then y times y is y squared. 9y times negative 4, negative 36y. 6y squared times negative 1 gives you negative 6y squared. Negative 1 times negative y becomes a positive y, or positive 1y if you want to put that there. And negative 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. Here you're just looking for like terms, so power of 3, there's none. Here you have these two. Those are like terms. These two are like terms. There are no other constants or ones without variables. And this is the only one that has the power of 3. So let's first look for one that has 54y to the third. Not A, could be C, could be B, could be D. If I take the ones in pink now, -6 and -9, remember you're not doing anything to the exponents, you're adding or combining like terms, so you're just adding numbers in front. -6 and a -9 gives me a -15. So this is not -15, so not this one. This one's not -15, so not this one, so your answer is B. Positive 1, -36 gives you a -35 and a 4 there. That one's only worth 2 points. For your response, for questions 10 to 13, make sure to show all your work and box your answers. Help me identify where you're working at. Question number 10, 4 points. There, between the parentheses, you have a math operation. The math operation is subtraction. So you can think of -1. A lot of students rush it and they don't think there's any math operation. So if you tried to multiply or do anything with the box, that was incorrect. Okay, pay attention to the math operation. So basically you're going to change all the math operations inside. And then I'm just going to look for the like terms. I look to the power 3 and there's nothing to the power 3. So that's a -4x to the third. Every mistake you made, so if a lot of students wrote that as a positive, I took off a point. Now I'm looking for powers of 2, so -4 and -4, that'll give me -8x squared. Positive 6x and a -5x, that gives me a positive 1x. And 4 plus 2 gives me 6. Okay, so for this problem, if you made one mistake, I took off a point. If you got something correct on there, I give you 2 points. If you try, to give you 1 point. Question number 11. Let me show you the most common mistake. If you wrote x squared minus 9, that was the most common mistake. I'll probably only give you 2 points. The reason why this is wrong is, again, you cannot apply the power rule of exponents to this because they're not by multiplication. Okay, this says x minus 3, and that means you need to write it out twice. If you wrote it out twice and you got the rest of the problem wrong, I gave you 2 points. Now, the only reason why I give you 2 points for this one is because it's part of the answer, but it's not correct. So binomial times a binomial, you have multiplication, so you're going to do the box. X minus 3, x minus 3, multiply, x squared, -3x, -3x, positive 9. You're going to look for like terms here. Now you're adding, so let's write that again. You are multiplying first, then you are adding or combining like terms. So this would be x squared minus 6x plus 9. I gave you 3 points if you were doing the box and everything inside the box is correct, but out here, I don't know. Maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe you wrote, I don't know, positive 9x or something like that. Okay? Question number 12. Says simplify. Again, look between the parentheses. There is no math operation, so here we are going to multiply. Multiplying essentially means we're going to use our box. This is a binomial, so there's two terms, 1, 2, and this is also binomial, 1, 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. You're going to have 12 4 boxes. Multiply first, then add or combine like terms. So I have x times 2x, that'll give you 2x squared. X times -9 is -9x. 2x times 7 is 14x. And 7 times -9 gives you -63. These two are the only ones that are like terms. So 14 and -9 gives you 5x, because remember you are adding. 2x squared plus 5x minus 63. If you got something in there correct, I gave you 2 points. I took off a point most likely for your math operations. And the last question, number 13. This one says factor, and this one has the power of 2. Well, if you factor something to the power of 2, that means you're going to try to use your x box. A value is 1, b value is -8, c value is 15. Draw your x. A times c in the top, so that's 1 times 15 is 15. You have your b value at the bottom, which is -8. I need two numbers that multiply to be positive 15 but add to be -8. I listed out my factors here, 15 and 1, 5 and 3. Well, 5 and 3 would add up to a positive 8. So a negative times a negative is a positive, and they add to be negative 8. So these two numbers can actually go in your binomials. Do you see that? Remember the hint, you can put this on your maps. If a is equal to 1 and they ask you to factor, you only have to do the x. Now if you don't understand that, remember you're putting those two terms here and here. And then you're putting your a term, your whole a term, in the top left. And then you are putting your c term into the bottom right. And then you're coming up with these on the outside of the box. How can you break down y squared? Well, that's y times y. Y times something gives you negative 3y. Well, this has to be a negative 3, because negative 3 times y gives you negative 3y. The number you're going to put over here is negative 5, and to double check, negative 5 times negative 3 gives you positive 15. If you just wrote y squared minus 8y plus 15, you did not attempt the problem, so I gave you a 0. That's not trying to repeat the problem. If you made a mistake, if you went on to use the zero product rule and you told me y minus 5 equals 0 and you got y equals 5 and positive 3, it doesn't ask you to solve. It only asks you to factor, which means you didn't understand what you were supposed to do, and I gave you 3 points out of 4. There are one multiple choice question at 2 points, 4 free response at 4 points apiece. That backside was 18. Hope this was helpful for you. Study for your test.